Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to make a miniature scenery inside this glass container. Originally this container stored coarse sea salt, but when I turn it around it makes a perfect little dome for a scenery. And I'm starting off by doing a little bit of terraforming with this air dry stone clay. My idea for the scenery was that this is actually the foot of a mountain range, and I decided to add a tower, and this tower would protect the beginning of this mountain range from the widened grasslands that lie before them. In my decoration stash I found these multicolored rocks, and I thought they would fit perfectly with the color of the clay to just add little boulders to make it look more like mountainy. And then I'm using one of my silicone color shapers to just make some mountain textures. I originally thought of using some crumpled orb foil, but I thought that I really just want to have the mountain look like it was kind of man-made, shaped a little bit. Like there was some mining happening because they have some precious purplish stones they found. I imagine them to be magic stones that they need to constantly give off magic energy for stabilizing the magic barrier between the grassland and the mountain range. For the base of the tower I cut out this rectangle out of EVA foam, and I'm doing some brick textures on it with just my knife. And I'm adding this tiny brick texture, and also I'm adding a large doorway. I wanted the tower to have these like closed off balconies with like the surveillance windows on all four sides, so that the stationed knights can see all possible intruders from all sides. So I'm using the same foam and carve the balconies out, and I'm using this contact glue, which kind of works like contact cement in that you apply it to both sides and then let it dry before sticking it together. I also carved a pyramid shaped roof, and to attach it I wanted it to look like it was held up by some massive wooden supports. To achieve that look I'm using some short wire pieces, and I'm first poking some holes into the foam where I want those pieces to sit to help me place them right. I also added this like tiny stone house on the side of the tower. I imagined for storing like goods like foods and tools and stuff. And I want this tower to be slightly darker stone with some wooden parts, so I'm adding a first layer of black to prime it, and I'm also adding some brown where like the wooden supports would be, and later on also where the roofing that I imagine to be wood would be. Once the first coat is dry I'm just using a brush with a teeny tiny bit of grey color to just dry brush the stone color on, and this will leave a nice texture of the bricks behind. Next up I'm adding some wooden frames to the windows and the doorways, and later on I will push the windows and doorways a little bit more inside so that they look more 3D. To give the mountain more texture, I'm just thinning out some paint with water and brushing it on and then wiping off the excess so that the paint will settle in all the nooks and crannies. And then I'm going to attach the tower. And I decided that it will probably hold up best if I use this wire method from before. So I'm poking some holes inside the tower, measuring out the distance from the wires and then poking some holes in the base and attaching the tower. At this point I realized that I found the tower was way too dark, so I'm taking another brush with a little bit of grey paint and dry brushing it again to make it look a little bit lighter and make it look more like it belongs into this mountain range. And then I'm dry brushing on some brown paint where the wooden parts would be, in my opinion, and I'm also adding a little bit of green paint later on to make the wood look old and mossy. While I let the clay dry overnight, I decided to add this cave, which I imagine to be a mine with an attached lake. So I'm adding some sand color on the base of this, and then I'm making some teeny tiny bridging that leads inside of the cave, and one for like a dock area in the front where they would take their boats up to go to the mines, and where they would transport the magic stones from the mines down the mountain range to the tower. And I'm mixing up some water blue colored uv-resin, and on the first layer I'm also adding some glitter that has almost the same color as the magic stones I added, to just make it look like the bottom of the lake has a giant amount of magic stones or magic stone dust. And after curing that, I'm adding a little layer of brown colored UV resin to make it look like the mountain range is like having dirty water that pours out from all the mining, and that slightly mixes with the light blue crystal clear lake. And lastly, I'm adding the tiny bridges that I made from just some sturdier crafting paper and wires. And also decided to add some of those wooden platforms to the side of the mountain to like mark out where they would possibly transport down the magic stones. And then I'm adding some tiny pieces of moss to the tower and to the stony area to make it look more aged and possibly slightly overgrown from the grassland area. And this is my finished miniature scenery. I really like how it turned out, and it was some really fiddly work that I did there, but I think you can see some of the stone details on the towers and stuff, and I'm really proud of that. I would have loved to make the cave a little bit larger, but since the clay was already drying on the edges, I could only make it this small, so the tower looks a little bit giant next to the lake with the docks. But I guess a larger tower means more protection for this area. Anyways, I hope you liked this project. I had much fun working on it, and I would love to know if you ever made a miniature scene like this. And if you did, please feel free to tell me in the comments down below. I'd love to hear about what you came up with. Anyways, hope you have a great day. Bye!